Hello, good morning, good morning. I hope you can bear with me for the rest of at least 30 minutes. I try to be very quick. Most of you don't know me because, as you already figured out, I'm not part of Circus and I'm not part of Circus education. So it's a mystery for me also, like why I'm here, and I'm still to be figured out, like how did that happen, but I'm very happy to be here. When this offer came, I didn't know how it's going to work out in terms of time-wise, but then universe spoken. As you said, yesterday I just had a premiere in the Dialist Theatre in Riga, and then what do you do the next morning after the premiere? Of course, you're going to do a little speech to inspire people. I am super excited actually to be here because I have been admiring your work since I was getting into education. And there were questions like in one of the keynotes as well, like what else is that you as Circus educators give to your students? And I'm working a lot with actors and dancers and contemporary performance. And from my very modest exposure to circus students who have been in circus training before, I can really tell what you give. It's not exclusive or inclusive, all this, but you definitely give focus, determination, commitment, and definitely the work ethics that comes with this profession. And when actors in many cases can fake that they do what they do, then in circus you can't fake, yeah? Okay, so let's try to get on with this one. So, my name is Jüri. Let me introduce myself first. And I am a full-time dreamer. And this is the full stop here. And I am obsessed with education. Because I come from theatre, actually I come from dance background, but I'm now more in the theatre, then I believe in a power of storytelling. So I'm going to tell you lots of stories, and hopefully it all makes sense what kind of routes I have been through to arrive here now, and what have been this kind of like a guiding forces of this. So my career as educator started when I was age 6. When I went to the school and I went to classes and I learned my first alphabet, we started with letters like everybody else. In the moment I had a bit of knowledge, I decided that those who don't have this knowledge yet should be they should have access to this knowledge. So I found all the kids that didn't go to school yet. I collected them and I started teaching them in parallel while doing my first steps of school myself. So it ended up so that every summer, all the kids that were younger than me, they had to come to my summer school so that I could really educate them. And partly the beauty, of course, was that I had a red pen and I could correct all the mistakes and say, guys, how do you don't understand this? It's so simple. But it continued and continued and continued. So when I say that I'm obsessed with education, then let me tell you a little bit about my educational background, because I think that would be a wonderful case for psychologists and sociologists and maybe even psychiatrists. So my journey in education has been very long. I am currently 50 years old, and if we exclude the first 5-6 years when I didn't go to school yet, since then there have been break of 3 years when I haven't been full-time student myself. So I have been obsessed with being a student, but not with the reason that you might think, but I've always been interested in how education is delivered. Like consciously or subconsciously, I like to be a student, and when I'm a student, I always observe the process of teaching and learning, and how do I feel, how my course mates feel, and how the knowledge and skills are transferred. So, about my educational background, I was trained as a choreographer, dance training, then I did my master's in London at Laban, Trinity Laban Conservatory, in European dance theatre practice. That wasn't enough. I went to master's in London. I did at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. I did directing and dramaturgy. That wasn't enough. Then I started doing PhD in Royal Holloway University. And while doing this, I also started doing masters at the University of Amsterdam. And then I started, after graduating this, I started doing masters in Warwick University. I didn't complete my PhD because I found that studying osteopathy would be a wonderful thing to do, because how long can you study arts? It's just, you know, it's like only this and that. So I went into osteopathy. While doing osteopathy, I was thinking, osteopathy is so evidence-based, scientific, it's boring, it loses all the mystery. So I started studying in parallel Chinese medicine at the university. So I didn't complete them because I decided to move back to Estonia and COVID hit. So I started doing PhD in Estonia. I didn't complete the PhD in London. And then I went to masters in human resource management. So this is my 5th master's that I'm about to complete. And I'm thinking about 3rd PhD, because the PhD that I started in Estonia, it just didn't happen because I lost the momentum. So currently, I am a full-time student as a master's student in TalTech University in Tallinn. And partly also, as you can read, I'm the professor of contemporary performance in Estonian Academy of Music and Theatre. So, wonderful case study, but most of the time I've really been interested in being a student as an observer of education. Teaching-wise, if we don't start counting from age 6, but start a little bit later into formal education in the Estonian Academy of Music and Theatre, I started in 2001, so it's a quite good 25 years of experience there. Yes, so at the moment I'm running this master's in contemporary physical performance making in Estonia, which is a beautiful beast, and I'm opening up a little bit about what it is and why it is the way it is, because again, it comes with the stories. When I was studying in London at Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, which is one of the most wonderful, prestigious schools in the world, in English-speaking world, in theatre education, there was an interesting observation that I made as a student being part of this wonderful institution. I went to school and we had weekly classes with our faculty, amazing teachers, like wonderful, knowledgeable, amazing teachers. And they were teaching like on a weekly basis, 2-hour, 3-hour session, a couple of times a week, 1 time a week, over a longer period of time. This is the education that I was used to, and that was very comfortable for me, etc., etc. But of course, if you're in London, you start looking into other possibilities as well, because there is so much happening. There are so many workshops. There are so many things happening around. So I started looking into weekend workshops with different contemporary performance makers. And it was shocking for me to find out that 2 days with an artist, in a condensed way, spending 2 days with an artist who is talking about their own artistic practice was, for me, much more transformational and inspirational than an entire year maybe in the institution where the teachers tried to give me bits and bits and bits and bits. And there are different reasons. It was timetabling issue, because things were dropped like this. And of course, if you develop skills, you cannot go into workshop mode and say, you know, in 2 weeks you're going to finish this and you obtained your skills. But in terms of getting into the world of theatre, of creativity, I found it super amazing that I spent 1 weekend with one artist and I was blown away, because we had 2 full days, not running from one place to other place and third place and fourth place, but actually spending time with one person talking about their own artistic practice. And that was for me like a total turning point. And my question was like, is it possible to take this experience and put it into academic institution, this kind of well-known academy, where usually they don't do stuff like this. In the UK, I don't know, there are people from the UK here, but in the UK, that would not be possible. Not in formal education because of limitations and regulations. At the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, it took 3 years to process, to make changes in timetable. So this is this kind of bureaucracy that we are talking about. So, being inspired by this experience, I was invited back to Estonian Academy of Music and Theatre to run a master's program that was run in Estonian, and it was called Theatre Arts and Pedagogy. So it was more like a pedagogical master's, but it was already established master's program, and every time they had a different focus. So for example, now it's on, the focus is on visual theatre, there have been voice studies. So again, training different kind of teachers for theatre education and having specific focus. And they had an idea to do it with the focus on physical theatre. So they invited me to run this Estonian program for 2 years. And I did it, but because I was living in London, I was thinking that maybe I can already start bringing a couple of guest artists or artists that I met in London that I myself found super inspirational to come and teach in Estonia through 1 week formats. Yeah? And it worked wonderfully. And then I went to the rector of Estonian Academy of Music and Theatre at that time, and I said, what if we would open an international master's degree, which is on the focus on physical theatre contemporary performance. And the context is that at that time, and since then also, there has been no international education available for international students in Estonia, because all performing arts education is in Estonian for Estonian market. And there has never been the ambition to actually open up this for international students at all. So in a sense, not only it was the new territory, because Estonia also has this kind of very clear understanding that theatre is a classical theatre. We have a very strong and wonderful theatre tradition, this kind of Stanislavski-based psychological theatre, wonderful. And then we also have dance education, which is, again, its own structure, starting with ballet and contemporary, and then building on that. And nothing in between. Okay, Estonian Academy of Arts is teaching now contemporary art in English as well, but this is not for performers so much. So the challenge was, yes, let's open the international masters in Estonia without any previous history of international students knowing that we do exist, that our country even exists. Because let me tell you, there were auditions when we did the first year, people didn't know where Estonia is or was. So in a sense, that was the situation what we were dealing. But the hardest for the academic institution, for the academy, that I put on a table, and it took us ages to negotiate, was that we have to agree that if we open this master's program, we have to agree that there is no expertise in contemporary performance in this house, in this institution. If you are talking about contemporary performance, yeah? We have theatre, we can teach theatre which has legacy and roots somewhere in psychological theatre, but we don't have expertise in contemporary performance. And that was not easy for one academic institution to accept that we want to do this, but we don't have expertise in the house. So we had to outsource all the artists, all the guest artists, everything. So that was like the one difficult thing for the academy to accept. But maybe I need to open up a little bit now this contemporary physical performance making, because that's maybe where we find things in common as well, and maybe help to understand the context. I told you about the word contemporary. And when I mean contemporary, through different educations that I have been through, I always find that academies teach what they know. Yes? And they know a lot about history. They know about legacy. They know about what was there in 1920s, 1940s, 1960s, 1980s, 2000. This is already really good. We are already getting closer to the, if we call it contemporary. But if we come to contemporary performance, if you're talking about artists who are currently in the studio, exploring, researching, doing stuff, creating work, creating exciting work, radical work, then they are not in the academy. Of course, through different PhD programs, academy really wants this to come in, but artists that I was interested in, artists that really are not interested in the academy, but they are interested in their own artistic research, these artists are not in the academia. And academia kind of doesn't trust. Yeah. So if there is an artist, well-known artist somewhere in the basement, somewhere in Riga doing exciting work, we might send students to see their work, but we are not yet ready to bring them in and let them mess around with our students and really give them time and space to tell what they are going through, what they find interesting. Of course, all this is generalization, but the tendency is, because again, expertise kind of is out there if you're talking about contemporary. And this word contemporary for me was super important, that we create the hub where young generation of artists come together and meet maybe more experienced artists, contemporary artists, that they meet, and it's not just teaching top-down, but it's about meeting, it's about sharing, it's about that something happens then. Physical for me, what was very interesting word as well, because all these words were so important to me that I couldn't let any of these 4 words go, because it could have been just a main contemporary performance, yeah? But I didn't want to forget why this program I wanted to create initially. So physical for me is really about training. Probably you understand word training much, much better than we understand, for example, in theater or somewhere else, because training element, and especially when we are talking about training an artist, there was a question of creativity before. You know, how do we not talk about creativity, but how do we train? What is the training of creativity? So what is it that I go to the studio and say, let's train creativity? And for me, this was like super interesting question. Like, how do we train an artist? Not conceptually, not talking about this, not analyzing it, but what is the training of creativity? What is the muscle of creativity that needs to be trained so that the artist would become a better artist? Super interesting question, and I haven't solved it, unfortunately, but I have some structural things that I can share what we have done if we have time. But contemporary physical performance, not to limit it to dance or theater, but open the possibility of performance as wide as possible. And the guest artists that we're inviting really go from sound art to physical theater, to dance theater, to installation art, to political art, because the performance is so vast and open. And then the last word, making, is very clearly making sure that we don't forget that we are training artists. People who should find their own voice, their own way of creating their own work and find their own place in this world. So contemporary physical performance making. So what we figured out with all this was also that it will be delivered through workshop format, which is possible in this kind of master level education where people already have some sort of education and they kind of can capture these things a bit better. Probably at BA level it would be a bit too hectic, or at least it would take more time to make it cohesive experience. And over 2 years, it's a 2-year master's program, they meet around 26 to 28 guest artists from all over the world. So literally, our faculty is whoever we find inspirational. Starting from Marina Abramovic to Lloyd Newson to Wim van de Kiebas to Marco Donnarumma, etc., etc. So in a sense, it's really, the faculty is all open. So as you understand, the immediate question is like the budget, like financial side of things, because we would all love to do it. I mean, it's not brainer that we would like to have all the best artists from all over the world to come to us to teach our students. But where does the money come from? Yeah. So that was something that I had to negotiate with the academy again, because normally in academic institutions, how the budget is allocated. You have budget for your permanent stuff, you know, that really hold it together. You invest, you keep these people. And then you might have a little one for the guest artists that come from outside. Yeah? So this money would not do. Yes? So I had to renegotiate the entire financial scheme of the course and say, I need so much money for the permanent members of staff to run the course. And at the moment, there are 2.5 positions, full-time positions. Myself, one senior lecturer and part-time senior lecturer. And we are 2.5 who literally keep this program running. The rest of the money is all for guest artists, guest faculty. Again, for the academic institution to allow this to happen or even find the possibilities of making this happen, because there are lots of regulations, there are lots of this kind of cultural, political regulations that allow you a certain amount of things, how much permanent members of staff you need to have in order to deliver a degree, etc., etc. So we were kind of able to go around it. But until now, even until now, we have been running the course since 2019. The academy still finds us like pain because we are just doing things differently. And by now also our management, the senior management of the academy, the rectorate, the rector, the vice rectors, everybody has changed. And every time a new person comes to the senior management, they go like, what the hell is this? Like, so many people traveling, constantly coming, fees, high fees, normal fees. These are normal fees. And we constantly go against this one. So in a sense, fighting, and again, it's a generalization and maybe a little provocation to my own home institution, but also academic institutions in general, like how do we find or I have found this kind of arrogance and this kind of like stagnation in the ways of thinking what education is and who is there for who. And for me, it is super important also that having all this institutional power and infrastructure and people, we are not positioning ourselves as an academic institution as something that stands there, and if you want a master's degree, then you have to go through all these holes and labyrinths and stuff, and if you get there, then we award you with the certificate and we say you are worthy of our diploma. And really go and say, okay, we have all this. We want to serve artistic community. Guys, what can we do for you? And this is like a reversing the philosophy of what is the role of academic institution? There are so many talks about, academy should be taking care of the community and providing to the society, etc., etc. And yet it stays in its own arrogance and in this kind of like centeredness and doesn't actually open arms and say, guys, what can we do for you? And that's what I have been trying to do. It's a territory of contemporary performance that is now part of our academy. It's the only place you can really study contemporary performance. Currently, it's our third cohort now, and we have 16 students from 13 countries, which is amazing. Again, 6 of them are outside of EU, 10 of them from EU. Again, amazing, because there are like Colombia, Australia, China, India. And this kind of very international community of people, when they meet, we cannot also underestimate how much students can teach each other and provide to each other. Of course, there are fantastic teachers that are coming, but if you have such an international cohort of students where by default they cannot agree on anything, because if the socialists from China and capitalists from America start talking about what is the role of me as an individual in a society, then this is dead end. It's not gonna end well, yes? And yet they have to go into studio and they have to start and making meaningful art and work together. So, I'm aware of the time. Again, this question of all these guest artists coming, the concept also is that it's overwhelming experience for our students. Because that's what I believe in as well. If we take something, like let's talk about creativity, that we say creativity is this, and we keep it too limited, then we might become too didactic in terms of how people find their own artistic way throughout. Because, as was said already before, there are so many branches, there are so many routes and routes. People come from different disciplines, people come from different cultural backgrounds, very different professional experiences. So I believe in overwhelming them. So when they are at school, they are overwhelmed by these intensive workshops that go and go and go and go. And they are excluding each other in a sense. They cancel each other out because in 1 week you have one guest artist who is teaching you that presence is and important is. Next 2 weeks somebody comes and totally says this is not important because this is important. Then next come and etc. etc. So you get so overwhelmed that then this hurricane, the only possibility is that you find your own core center, you just sit there and you figure out what the hell is there for me. And in order to help students to do that, these 2.5 full-time positions that we are there in place permanently all the time, we are the ones who help to make sense of this experience for individual students. So they have weekly questions, we have meetings, we have seminars, we try to make sense of all this complex experience, which is so overwhelming that when they leave the school, they are so hangover from everything that you can do, which can be totally paralyzing because you know so much. You step out from the school and you say, like, I don't know where to start because I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. And there is no one thing that gives a very clear ground of that's what you need to do. But then, when they leave, and now we have two graduates, 2 cohorts of graduates, what is beautiful about this is that every time they work somewhere, and I ask them, what is it, like how is it going, or how different projects are going, and then they say, always, they say that after this course experience, we could work anywhere, under any circumstances, on anything, with any methodology, you know, and that's beautiful because they can really navigate through very different ways of working. And this space is actually also a very special space because one of our graduates, Latvian graduate from the first cohort, made after her graduation, she was straightforward actress. And this is also something that is beautiful because if you want to become an artist, you don't need to have one specific discipline before. You can become an artist when you are architect. We have at the moment, like on the course, we have Greek architect, we have Chinese dancer, we have Australian actor, we have Estonian semiotician. So in a sense, to become an artist, you could come from any discipline. And all you can do is to develop your own voice or decide that I want to be an artist. And that's what our program is trying to do. There is no one way of going about this. Everybody starts from their own place and everybody goes wherever they want to go. And our work is to really support that they find their own individuality. And if you look at the graduate works as well, everybody at the end of the studies need to create their own performance. You can really say these kids are not kids from the same family. They don't have the same parents. They didn't go through the same education because their language and ways of working and the work that they produce are simply so different. Yes, so 40 seconds to go. What else to add? Yes, maybe you have questions, and I'm happy to answer to your questions. But yes, as I said at the very beginning, people that you let out of your schools are wonderful. They are absolutely wonderful. The dedication, the motivation, the discipline, it's so there. Yeah, so thank you for your beautiful work. And I do hope that there are possibilities also for you to... One thing that I wanted to put on the table, because we just had a chat before, and I understood that, you know, the circus is falling somewhere in between formal education and non-formal education. I want to bring an example from the medicine, because when I studied osteopathy, most of you might know what osteopathy is, manual form of therapy. And there was a talks at the time when I was studying osteopathy, because there is a very clear distinction. There is physiotherapy, which is scientific, evidence-based discipline, which is funded by the NHS in the UK, this kind of central medical system. And there is osteopathy, which is this kind of, you know, like more like a massage, you know. And osteopaths were really not confused, but they had a dilemma. Should we go towards like accredited science and evidence-based route, which means that everything we do, we need to prove works? Or we stay more on a la-la land, we do what we feel that we really need to do, and are able to still continue doing this magic that we do with our hands, without not being able to say that it works, or prove it with 5 papers to say, you know, if I do this, then this happens. And that was very interesting thing. So as a circus community, I think it's an interesting thing for you to think about, like, do you want to really go to this very formal education? What are the benefits, but also what are the drawbacks, throwbacks if you do go? And how do you survive in these institutions when, you know, you have to go into different kind of paperwork? What we have been trying to do very much so is that we are fully accredited master's program, but our student experience is nothing like this. We try to hide it. We don't try to bother with them. We do the paperwork on the side. But how we serve is that these 16 artists come together as a community, and all they need to worry is having this experience as a community of artists who try to figure out something about their own work and art, and leave all these at the background. So the danger going into formal education or institutions also is that you have to sacrifice something, and this is something worth considering. So thank you.